Hello ladies and gentlemen, please have a seat and make yourselves comfortable. As you probably know, the main pull of this episode at the time was that of the revival's longest standing companions being killed off. Their tenure and subsequent departure on the show was never something I really had much of an emotional attachment to. Frankly, they were past their sell-by date by the end of Series 6, and as you can probably tell by me talking about them for the past 2 years, I'm not exactly a huge fan of them overall. This might be the result of me unconsciously comparing Amy and Rory to my own experience as both a fiancé and now a married man. This could either be harsh judgment based on how obviously unrealistic Doctor Who is as a piece of fiction, or it could be my inability to relate to these two characters. I've always believed the companions should be the eyes through which we see the world of the Doctor. When those eyes are tainted by writing that forces a relationship instead of developing it, though, I get turned off by the whole affair. This has been one of the main problems for me, so it's kind of refreshing knowing that I will no longer have to dwell upon these two characters until Christmas. After this review, we go back to a simpler time when there were just two in the TARDIS. Our episode begins with a misdirection, that the writer of the narrated words is a man's when it is in fact River's. Aesthetically, this is a really cool opener. It ties directly onto the episode Blink, this time with it being a miserable rainy nighttime scenario when the statues can move more freely. Our attention is then turned to mobster/collector Mr. Grail, who has hired private investigator Garner to investigate the angels. The hyperdramatization of this encounter helps to build the idea of this being a fiction conjured up by River without knowing her involvement at this point. Garner is also one victim out of many seen in the windows who have become part of the angels' battery farm. A lift comes down, a subtle reminder of the angels' ability to control electrical appliances. After a little chase with the angels, Garner comes face to face with the Statue of Liberty in this rather stunning establishing shot. Unfortunately, this was where my brain actually kicked in and disbelief overwhelmed me as the titles blew by. How on earth did she zip from Liberty Island to Manhattan without anybody seeing her?
The city that never sleeps.
Within the established rules of the Weeping Angels, I can't get on board with it stomping its way over to Winter Quay. Had this story surrounded the idea of turning a statue into an angel via this battery farm, that would have coloured me intrigued. We then see the powerful three chilling out in Central Park. The gang are running on full steam as comedic lines surrounding the couple's relative aging is most certainly appreciated.
Well, we have company.
I'll get a babysitter.
As somebody that was more than dissatisfied with the aesthetical shortcomings of a certain Dalek two-parter, it is thoroughly satisfying seeing the BBC able to travel to NYC, the establishing shots, the gorgeous skyline being the main focus of this shot right here. It's great stuff. As a setting for an episode with the Weeping Angels, it definitely makes sense given the numerous statues that are shown to us throughout. Admittedly, there are parts of the episode that aren't filmed in the Big Apple.
Christ no, we're not made of money.
But I think they did enough to convincingly establish the setting within the first 15 minutes. Anyway, Rory goes and gets some coffee and the Doctor tears out the final page of the book he's reading. He then makes it very, very clear that he's not a big fan of endings.
I hate endings.
Upon returning without a bloody cup holder, the skinny man floats by the famous fountain in Central Park. It introduces the cherub angels in this sequence, which perhaps could have been done with more subtlety. Honestly, I really want to like their inclusion. The ambiguity of whether the cherubs are yet to mature angels or if they're a whole other thing entirely works in their favour. There's this snicker-snacker sound effect as well when they toddle about and really sends chills down my spine, yet they chose to place the camera on a modified angel and also show it vanishing. More irritating is hearing the cherubs giggling away, not just here but throughout the episode. I've already voiced my concerns with giving angels voices, so please refer to my Time of Angels review for more on that. Rory is then zapped back in time and comes face to face with Melody alone. Melody alone! I've got to appreciate the little snippets of the plot being revealed to us throughout the episode via this book. The torn final page, characters reading ahead, is all great, not just for the reveals to come, but River's famous quote,
spoilers,
fits in with her appearance in this episode. Even she doesn't have a clue about the Doctor's involvement. Perhaps their diaries are finally synchronized with neither having any foreknowledge of this adventure. I also really appreciated River's characterization in this episode. Having a vortex manipulator and helping societies rid themselves of weeping angels screams badass to me. You could argue her being here in 1938 and just bumping into her dad of all people is quite the coincidence, but given that there's a soft bootstrap paradox with Melody Malone's author, I'm going to waver this concern for the time being. Rory then translates some ancient Chinese written on a pot, which River explains as being a gift of the TARDIS that hangs around. I quite liked this, seeing as the TARDIS is at this point trying to get through to New York 1938, but can't. On the other hand, a moment of extreme convenience occurs with the Doctor essentially confirming to River that he's on his way by writing Yowzah on another pot. Purely based on the phrase early Qin dynasty, he was able to locate the exact location in China of the exact pot that would be owned by somebody he's never met over 2,000 years later. Rory is then sent down to somewhere uncomfortable.
With the baby, sir?
Yes, why not? Give him to the babies.
Considering the reminder that Rory is River's father,
hello, Dad.
It was rather astounding to me that she had no problem whatsoever being separated from her father at this point. Let's return to this Mr. Grail character. I get that he wants to understand the angels, but his motives for doing so aren't exactly clear to me. I'm not sure if it comes from a sense of duty or heroism, seeing how he leaves Rory with da babies in the cellar and also pays a pretty penny for a PI to step foot into the hornet's nest itself. He knows exactly how the angels operate, so why he willingly sends people to meet their end makes me think that he might actually be working for the angels. He then proceeds to switch off the lights with the angel clutching River's wrist. The Doctor arrives with a fanfare big enough to blow your socks off, and this causes Mr. Grail to suffer a permanent back injury. He would later get up unscathed and then get zapped by an angel. This is the last we see of him, so any questions surrounding his motivations are thrown to the wind. His goons seem to have finished their shifts as well at this point, because they don't have any further appearances after throwing Rory down the stairs. This is where the Doctor breaking something comes into play. Him looking at the chapter titles actually makes the characters worse off. They find the cellar, but Rory's already gone, and the Doctor's reaction to seeing the final chapter title causes him to lash out at River. It is really smart having a book written in story surrounding the companions' departure. We in reality all know when actors are joining and leaving the show before their first and final episodes are out. Frankly, it's a shame that the BBC can never keep a lid on this shit, but at least with this episode they are aware enough of this fact to make it an inevitability. Having the Doctor react and make decisions based on pre-established outcomes is commendable. He hates endings as much as the audience does. River breaking her own hand is certainly a testament to her character, both showing dedication to her husband.
Never let him see the damage. And never, ever let him see you age.
But also understanding that events are set in motion and no matter what happens, her hand will get broken. The pair's argument about this is fiery and interesting, and we even see a rejection of his ability to cheat with regeneration energy. It's like the Doctor broke her heart in this moment and not her wrist, so the Doctor did in effect break something after all, just not what he was expecting. Only thing is, all of this could have been avoided had River just used her vortex manipulator to get out of the angel's grasp. It's wrapped around her left hand and the angel grabs her right. All they needed to do was swap wrists, or even better, have the angel crush the vortex manipulator into dust when Grail flicks the light out for a second time. Otherwise, why did he bother? After receiving a blowjob from a cherub, Rory winds up on some street a few blocks away. Where the fuck are we? He is then somehow lured into Winter Quay. At least Garner was given an address to go to. Rory just winds up there because the plot requires it. Had he been zapped inside of Winter Quay, I honestly wouldn't be complaining about this. The gang reunites to find that Rory's had the Garner treatment, where he sees his older self perish in bed. The Doctor then understands what's going on and delivers the information to us.
This place is policed by angels. Every time you try to escape, you get zapped back in time.
It was here I began to wonder about the logistics of keeping all these people alive here. They have a nice warm bed, but what about food? How are the angels feeding them?
The angels will come for you. They'll zap you back in time to this very spot 30, 40 years ago. You will live out the rest of your life in that room until you die in that bed.
I am honestly surprised old man Rory looked as well as he did, considering he's not gone absolutely fucking mental from being locked up in one room for several decades. Anyway, this was where the final Amy and Rory paradox came to save the day. The fact Rory was so confident this was going to work was rather riveting.
This place never existed. What did I fall off?
You think you'll just come back to life?
When don't I?
It was also rather noble of him too that he would give his life not just to eradicate the angels but to prevent him from living a life of solitude. It was super sweet as well having Amy jump with him, but these shots have not aged well at all. It's trying so hard to be a tearjerker moment as well.
Amy!
I'm just so glad that on the pair's third finale episode, they couldn't so easily escape the clutches of death. The gravestone shot from earlier comes full circle, drawing the pair's attention, unable to see the angel coming right up behind Rory. This farewell had me appreciating Amy's dedication to her husband. With River displaying the same commitment earlier, this dangerous double date allows River to separate her emotional connection with her parents and the reaction the Doctor is having at the same time. It's reassuring for the audience that we don't need to worry about the pair either, because the power of love will keep them safe from harm. That's the power of love. It's a little unsatisfying, I'll admit, but my romantic sensibilities are going to give this unfinished business a pass. My only real qualm with this scene, though, is this shot right here, because it implies the gravestone was changed.
That gravestone, Rory's, there's room for one more name, isn't there?
What are you talking about?
The entire point of this episode is that time cannot be rewritten. This is the third and final time the characters rewrite time to get out of a situation, and the Grim Reaper is finally catching up with them. To truly make this reveal hit home, both their names should have been revealed to Rory. If Amy truly had no choice in a deterministic fashion, I think this would have justified the Doctor being upset even more. In the TARDIS after the companion's departure, River declares that she will never be a full-time companion. I'm certain we all would have loved her to have been a permanent fixture aboard the TARDIS, but you can definitely have too much of a good thing too. Plus her story arc is pretty much finished by this point, and it would be hard to know if keeping her around would be worthwhile. I know it's better than the companion we're about to wind up with for 3 years afterwards, but it is what it is.
This book I've got to write, Melody Malone. I presume I send it to Amy to get it published?
Yes.
Now, this was quite the strange line, because I don't remember the show establishing her as being a publisher. She claims to write travel articles in The Power of Three, so it's not too much of a stretch to believe she would eventually climb the publishing career ladder. Trouble is, Amy has absolutely no connection with this book when the Doctor reads it at the start of the episode. He just has it in his pocket.
Where did you get this book?
It was in my jacket.
How did it get there?
How does anything get there? I've given up asking.
I'm therefore left to assume that Amy became a publisher after being zapped back in time with Rory. The afterword written by Amelia is written as though this were the case, yet when they say that Amy will be the publisher, they've just left her in the past. How do they know she would even become a publisher right after leaving the graveyard? Oh my god, I was laughing so hard seeing the Doctor running over the bridge in Central Park. The slow-mo once again just ruins the moment. All just to remind the Doctor that he should visit child Amy once in a while? This ending is fine, I guess. In fact, I'm super glad this was the ending we got, instead of the one written by the man himself, Chris Chibnall. Yep, There's a mini episode where Amy and Rory's adopted son meets Brian. It's entirely made of animated storyboards with a bit of narration recorded by Arthur Darvill. In my opinion, it's a little too close to Sally Sparrow's best mate writing a letter and having her grandson deliver it in Blink. I'm also glad it didn't make it because it's really in support of a character that was introduced 2 series too late, as well as negating the importance of Amy's parents. So, did it suck? I'm not sure I'd call this one of my favourite episodes, but it's above average. It has a killer opening, the setting is great, all the stuff with River in the book was fantastic. Most of all though, the episode has a romantic angle that I am a total sucker for. Trouble is, all the new additions to the Weeping Angels are either okay or straight up nonsensical. More details were required for them to be justified in this episode. Perhaps extending it into a 2-parter might have allowed for a deeper exploration of the Angels and side characters. Not to mention the other humans in this story that get pushed aside fairly quickly too. I give The Angels Take Manhattan a 6 out of 10. Time for a sippy. The mouth needs lubrication. More irritating is hearing the cherubs giggling away, not just here, but throughout the... Rory is... I can never get his name. I'm so happy I don't have to say his fucking name ever again. Every script I've cocked up reading his name. Rory.